What's up, everybody? It's the Power Rankings Podcast, aka the Power Rankings Show. I'm Elliot Harrison. I'm your host. Isn't that good news? Marcus Mosher is with me. I love throwing you off, man. You know, and I don't even throw you off anymore because I could tell you're checking news right now as we speak. Marcus and I know what you're doing.
I was looking at the latest odds to see where Bobby Wagner was going to go. But go ahead.
You know, Marcus doesn't even, one of our listeners, I think it was Steven. I apologize, Steven. I meant to like your tweet. He noted my commitment to @Marcus_Mosher, but Marcus doesn't appreciate the commitment. But as always, I am joined by @Marcus_Mosher. Nice hoodie, by the way, bro. I like it.
Yeah, thanks. It's St. Patrick's Day. So where's your green?
What are you talking about? Where's my green? Are you one of those people that had the hard time with that Jets Bills color rush game?
Hold on. I got to change my color screen to see if that's actually green. That's blue. What are you talking about?
This is green, my friend. That's blue. See the blue right there? That's blue. That's green. Yeah.
I might be colorblind. That's a little concerning.
Yeah. Okay. I will say it's a different. Yours is more of a Kelly green. It's a little different shade. Green. Yeah. It's a different shade of green, but it looks. I think on our screen it does look a little more. Aqua-y. Courtney, our producer, is wearing green. That's a good look. Chad Ryder will be joining us in a bit. He's got a green helmet in the back, so we're going to count that. A lot of news that's happened since we last joined you on Tuesday. For today, we're going to have Chad joining us. He'll be on in about 10 minutes or so. We're going to go over some of not so much the moves themselves, but how they affected how those teams are going to approach the draft. Chad gave us a list of 8 teams where they're picking and what he kind of sees happening now that the dominoes have fallen through the first couple of days of free agency. We're at the point right now, it's Thursday when we're recording this, in case you're listening on Friday, where by day 4 of free agency, you're really not going to see a lot of big moves. These are the stragglers, okay? It's 1:45 at the bar. You know, you're hanging out. You're like, do I want to go home? Do I have another beer? Okay, I'm going to have another beer. And the bartender says, no, really, bro, you got to go. So, although Marcus, do y'all have any bars that are open till 1:45?
No, there's like 2 bars here. So not really. And they all close at 10. So there you go.
Oh my gosh, they close at 10. You know, I sit here and act like I'm some big beer drinker. I don't drink beer at all. I know it's sad, isn't it?
It's all right. Can we talk about free agency instead of beer? I know it is St. Patrick's Day. People are wanting us to
I mean, that's what I was about to. That's what I was about to get to. It's St. Patrick's Day. People are going out getting. Let me be festive. Jeez Louise. Okay,
I'm allergic to Guinness, so I'm allergic to Guinness, so I can't really have it. So it's St. Patrick's Day is not a fun holiday for me.
I'd like to. When we bring Chad in, I'm going to get his opinion on this. But I've always felt like Guinness was like the coffee of beers. It kind of tastes like if you took beer and coffee. But I like it. It's different. Once a year, it's good stuff. But yes, we have football stuff to get to. So let me get started on that. So just to kind of download you on some of the major moves, and Marcus, just jump in here if I'm missing anything. Preston Smith re-upped with the Packers. The Darius Smith, their other pass rusher, went to Baltimore. A lot of pass rusher movement. Von Miller signs a 6-year, $120 million deal with Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Chandler Jones, Raiders acquire him. I don't remember the money on that deal.
$17 million a year.
So then they end up feeling like they can trade Ngakoue, who they paired with Max Crosby last year, pretty fearsome pass rush. They trade him to the Colts, who need a pass rusher. They trade Rock Ya-Sin. Was Rock Ya-Sin part of that 2018 draft class that was so awesome for the Colts?
No, he was part of the 2019 draft class for the Colts. That was pretty awful. So.
Yeah, I remember the 2018 though. They like nailed it, like no team in recent history. So those are some of the major moves. I'm trying to think. Ty Montgomery, I think, upped with the Patriots, right?
Yep.
And we've had. Yeah, go ahead.
So we had J.D. McKissick go back from Buffalo back to Washington. Decided that would be a better fit staying home. We had the Cowboys release Lyle Collins. That was kind of expected. That's basically it. Oh, we had Julio Jones get cut by the Titans. We should mention that one.
Yeah, I could have predicted that last year. I didn't understand in like fantasy circles where people were gung ho on Julio Jones going to the Titans. I thought it was a bad fit with the surface, with the age involved, the type of
quarterback.
Yep, everything. I know I'm forgetting one. Oh, Shaq Mason. That's a big move. You get a veteran for Tom Brady. They lost Alex Kappa. They lost Ali Marpet to retirement. So that's a big move for them. The Patriots have taken some lumps. Didn't the Patriots release Kyle Van Noy also?
They did.
During this period?
They signed him to a contract extension last year, already released him. Dante Hightower is still a free agent. We'll see if they bring him back.
You and I both love him. Now, he towards the back end of the year, maybe age was catching up a little bit finally with that guy. He's had a great career. But if you're a team that's trying to win now, like the Chargers or some of the other, even the Broncos, they seem like they're in win now mode. I sure would like to have a presence like that in my locker room and out on the field. That is for sure. Whatever amount he slowed down, he probably can make up for in play recognition. I think that pretty much covers all the moves. Before we bring Chad in here, what to you, give me one or two of the moves that really stuck out to you.
Oh, to me, it's the Von Miller one, because that's what Buffalo was missing all of last year. The defense was really good against some bad teams, but whenever they played a good offense, they just didn't have any juice at the edge. Now they've got somebody that can actually go out and put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. I think if they had Von Miller last year, they probably win the Super Bowl. Like, they beat the Chiefs. They get that stop on, at the end of the game. I would not be surprised if this is the move that kind of swings the balance of power in the AFC.
Did Chandler Jones come out 2 years after Von Miller? Miller was in the 2011 draft, right?
And I think I think Chandler Jones was the 2012 draft, maybe?
Maybe he was the next year. Maybe Chad will he's our real draft expert. Not our real. I mean, Marcus is awesome too.
I'm a part-time. Chandler Jones was the 2012 draft.
Yeah. So both of those guys are, I guess, quote, aging pass rushers. Would you rather have Chandler Jones and Von Miller at this point?
No, I'd rather have Von. Because
Von.
We saw in the playoffs with Von, like, hit 4 sacks in the 4 games, and he looked quick and explosive. And the sack that he had against Tom Brady that kind of won them the game was peak Von Miller. And I kind of think as he ages, he relies less and less on athleticism. So for 2 or 3 more years, I think he's still going to be an outstanding pass rusher.
Really the Bills' best pass rusher over the last decade has been Jerry Hughes, which is a guy that most people don't even really think of. Von Miller could basically give Buffalo what DeMarcus Ware gave Von Miller and the Broncos in 2015, got that key sack right before halftime when Carolina was trying to make some hay in Super Bowl 50, tried to make it close, and they got shut down by that pass rush. And obviously, if you were going to double team Von Miller, take your chances one-on-one with DeMarcus Ware. I think Von Miller can certainly give them what the Bills, what Ware gave the Broncos. And I'm with you. If Buffalo wasn't already a Super Bowl contender, which they are, they're even more so. Real quick, do the Raiders look a lot better to you now? Or are you still worried about the offense?
I still worry a little bit about the offense, but this move makes a lot of sense for them, right? Like, Yannick Ngakoue is a really good pass rusher, but Chandler Jones is just better, and he's got experience with Patrick Graham from their days in New England together. It's just a better fit in that defense. I still worry a little bit about the corner situation. They lost Casey Hayward to the Falcons today.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really good pass rush duo with Max Crosby.
I think Casey Hayward's going to be the new Terrence Newman. He's going to play until he's like 55.
And every year is going to be a quality year. It's like, hey, how come we didn't sign that guy?
Right. I just, with Raiders getting Darren Waller back healthy, I think that's going to be really big for them. And I really like this move, and then making the trade. I know they got a ways to go, and that division's going to be ridiculously hard. But I wouldn't count the Raiders out of the playoff race. It may not be a Super Bowl contender, but I still think they can be a playoff team. We will see on that. That's about it for all the moves. I'm sure I'm missing 1 or 2 here. Lyle Collins, I saw a tweet that the Bengals should be on the phone with him pronto. I think there should be several teams interested in Lyle Collins.
Yeah, I mean, that entire AFC West with all the pass rushers that are over there. I mean, everybody needs a good right tackle. There's just not very many good right tackles in the NFL. So a lot of people are wondering, why did the Cowboys trade him? most teams don't want to trade for guys that are on a $10 million cap hit for 1 year and have multiple years left. They'd rather sign him to their deal.
Ooh, we had a good freeze there. But I know exactly where he's going with that. And I was just about to bust on Marcus and say, unless you want to sign Evan Ingram for 10 million a year. So we'll get Marcus back in a second. Something happened with it. He's out in Pennsylvania. This is totally understandable. But Lyle Collins, I don't want to say he's been a disappointment for the Cowboys, but he hasn't lived up to kind of his billing in the draft. He was supposed to be a first-round pick. There were extenuating circumstances with him at the time, but I think the Bengals would be a decent fit for him. But as Marcus pointed out, a lot of teams could use a right tackle. But that is about it that I have on the free agent front. I want to bring in Chad Ryder now, who's my former colleague at NFL.com. If you haven't heard him on our podcast before, you've been missing out. Can we bring Chad in or we'll wait. I'm getting the wait for a second. Hold your horses signal from Courtney. Okay. Sorry about that, Courtney. How are you, sir?
Just like Axl Rose said, just takes a little patience. I am doing fantastic.
Oh, Chad.
I am doing fantastic. It's, this free agency is, messing around with my mock drafts, but that's part of the deal. And it's fun. It's a fun time of year to check all this stuff out.
What was the comedian that did the rendition of Patience? And he goes, Patience. We're all meant to patience. He's doing that. Actually, it was pretty sweet. Yeah, that's back in the day. Chad, you can follow him at Twitter thank you, sir. That's very good. At Chad_Ryder. That's spelled Reuter. Always have to say that because it sounds like Ryder. And he's got a lot of good work over there. Chad is going to go over 8 free agent. Well, basically not 8 free agent moves, 8 teams who did or did not do certain things in free agency that's going to affect what they do in the first round of the draft. So we're going to go over those. And I think we can bring Marcus back in. He looks like he's doing okay. Let's see if we can get him before we get started here.
I'm back. I just had to check out the latest free agency news. I'm back. No worries.
Yeah, Chad, it won't work. I know what you're trying to do. Chad tried to do the fake freeze sign. And you know what you look like? You look like when William Shatner landed on a planet and went, like in that freeze stance for a second for extra drama.
No, the movie Strange Brew, Bob and Doug McKenzie, they did a little bit like that. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
Such a good movie.
Yes, I'm glad to see Marcus back. And before we get into movie talk, we'll move us along here to one of the teams that I picked. And first of all, I kind of said no quarterbacks in this because it's such a mess right now, the league. But I do want to just quickly mention that I didn't bring up the Steelers here, because I don't think there's a chance. There's a very, very tiny chance that the Steelers won't do something at quarterback even after signing Mitchell Trubisky. I think it's that contract, the contract details just showed everything you need to know about what they feel about him as a good, potential good backup or whatever, maybe fights for the starting job, but they did not consider him like a long-term thing based on that contract. So I didn't bring him into this conversation.
Can I say I'm glad about that, because the 2 teams we talk about the most on this podcast are the Jags and the Steelers. And I think we could really use, and I see no Jags on this rundown. So Chad, the way we did it, we started from the team that's picking the lowest. That would be the Cincinnati Bengals. They're picking 31st. So let's go ahead and start there. What happened with free agency that you think is affecting their first round plans?
Well, they signed 2 guards, which they needed to. Or 2 interior linemen, I should say, and Ted Karras and Alex Kappa. So maybe that's come off the board. They still could use a right tackle. So, they might be in the Collins conversation there, but they could look there's going to be some interest in Collins, so they might not get him. So in that case, that might push them to a right tackle. And it's funny that right tackle at the end of the first round isn't always a guy that's been talked about as a first round pick coming into the conversation. So it's going to be interesting. And Cincinnati tends to like these guys like Darian Kennard, who you look at his tape and you don't think a first round pick, right? But I put Alex Leatherwood in the first round last year and people were giving me a hard time, and he shouldn't have went 17th, but I wasn't surprised he was, because he's one of those guys that gets considered when most people don't think he should be in there. So guys like Abraham Lucas, Darian Kennard, some of these guys that, and Tyler Smith from Tulsa is another guy that could be interesting at the end of the first round, even though he's very, very raw. But so they could look that direction. the other thing is at defensive tackle, they don't really have somebody to take over for Ogunjobi. And I think Devontae Wyatt may be gone by then, but there could be other, you could get another defensive tackle later in the draft too. And then there's Eli Apple. You can't bring him back probably. You have to get a cornerback. So those are the areas now I think that they've settled in their offensive line a little bit, maybe some more here with Collins. Those are the other areas I was thinking of.
I think you've nailed it, Chad. I think it's got to be offensive line or defensive line. There's really no other spot that they can go. The problem is the draft going to line up with that? Because right. I think all of the offensive tackles and guards that you want are going to be gone. There's only 2 borderline first round defensive linemen. We'll see. I don't get the Tyler Smith thing at all. I watched him yesterday. Wow. That is a day 3 offensive lineman if I've seen it, but I don't get it.
Right.
I wanted to ask you guys a question and maybe either one of you guys to jump in here, but given how the prospects kind of lay out, how you see them, and the Bengals are picking 31st, might this be a spot where the Bengals put this pick up for trade and a team that's on day 2 make a deal and the Bengals go get some more, 3rd round picks or whatever, and get guys that maybe aren't as high of prospects, but maybe they can acquire more players on their board.
If the Bengals ever traded, that would be a great plan, but they typically don't. And, I joke about that because, last year I predicted the Bears would move up to the Giants to get a quarterback, and people are like, the Giants never trade down. Well, guess what? They don't until they do. So, but yes, all those teams at the end of the first round will certainly take calls. They always do. They take those calls from those second round teams looking to get up. So you're absolutely right. They're going to be in that for part of the reason that Marcus was talking about, that the value at some of these positions. That's why I threw cornerback in there, because if they don't like the defensive backs or the offensive or defensive linemen at the end of that first round, they may like a Roger McCreary. They may like one of these other guys that are good corners, but maybe have the short arms or have another thing that is keeping them out of the top 20. So
I will say this, Chad, really quickly before we move on. 31 is going to be a spot where a lot of teams are looking to trade up for if you need a quarterback, because the Lions drafted 32. They've got that pick for the Rams. So if you want to come up and get one of these quarterback prospects that falls, like if you're the Colts, to get that 5th-year option, I think the Bengals probably would be open for business.
Yeah, they might get an extra 2nd and 3rd round pick depending on how far their team has to move up, that kind of thing. I was thinking secondary, Chad, also, and it's kind of the difference between competing in your division and competing in your conference. There's no big time passing game in the AFC North other than the Bengals. But if you're going to compete,
quarterback, no.
But if you're going to compete, Lamar Jackson can play, but none of those passing games are looking good right now. But if you're going to compete in that conference, you're going to need some secondary help for sure. The next team on your list are the Kansas City Chiefs. They are picking 29th. What did you see here?
Well,
excuse me, they're picking 30th. I'm sorry, I screwed that up.
Yeah, so they signed Justin Reed, and it doesn't look like Tyrann Mathieu coming back as far as we can tell at this point. So now do they go offense? Do they get another receiver to finally find that big-bodied receiver that has speed that can fit in their offense a little better? They've not always had that. They've had to rely on the smaller guys, which is fine. They've been incredible. But they could find a guy that they like in the end of the first round there, or are they going to go cornerback now because they lost Charvarius Ward, good player, and so now you might have some corners at the end of the first that are in play for them now.
And I would also mention right tackle. They rebuilt their offensive line in 1 year, with the one spot that they couldn't figure out as right tackle. If a guy like Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan is there, I think that's a perfect fit.
Yeah, Raymond to me is this year's Dylan Riddance. I think he's very kind of short-armed and agile and a worthwhile prospect. I don't think he's in that. To me, he's not in that late first round thought. I know a lot of people think that way, but to me, it just a lot of people were putting Riddance in that category last year, and he's like more of a late second, mid to late second kind of guy to me.
See, I like him a little bit more than you because he's highly athletic. And listen, the Chiefs have had some success before with athletic offensive tackles from Central Michigan. So
yeah, right. he's a little slightly different than the other guys. But yeah, I just see a real similarity between Radunz, who is also very athletic, and it could be. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, guys, his crab soccer time was just not good enough for me. But that's fine. We can.
You love this. You know that you love all this combine.
We can agree to disagree. Let's now go to the real 29th pick. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lost 2 linemen, Chad. Now they brought a lineman in that Tom Brady's played with. What are you thinking here? They also re-signed their best corner as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting whether they want to use another high pick on the offensive line with bringing back Ryan Jensen, trading for Shaq Mason. Do they want that other spot filled on the guard, or do they just say, you know what, let's just go right to corner where we really have a need? We're picking guys off the street. They re-signed Carlton Davis, but they need other guys there. They need bodies at that position. So that's kind of where it's going to be interesting to see how they go after their free agent movement.
And I think defensive tackle is another spot that they need to keep an eye on. William Golston's a free agent. Ndamukong Suh is a free agent. They have Vita Vea, but who's going to slide into that 3 technique spot and get pressure? I think that's where Devontae Wyatt from Georgia is a great spot, because he's going to be 24 years old. He's ready to go. He's got some pass rush upside. I think that would be a great fit.
It would be a good fit. And I think a guy that reminds me of Golston, we talked about this last time, was Logan Hall. So if they like that kind of 5 tech that could slide inside at times in that 3-4 scheme, he's one of those sleeper, AAC kind of first rounder guys that could get in there. And if he ends up falling, because he's not quite as long as some of the other guys, and
better than Peyton Turner, who went in the first round last year.
Right. He's not quite in terms of that. So like maybe they get him in the second round. And so that's kind of what I was thinking, that they would approach that part of the draft in the second or third round. But certainly if they like a guy like that, it would make sense too.
Yeah, 2 thoughts here. One, interior defensive line was so important to this team's Super Bowl run. A couple years ago, they were the number 1 run defense in the league. You look at that division's going to be running the football. The Saints are going to be running the football with Dennis Allen as head coach. I guarantee it. Carolina is going to be running the football. And honestly, Marcus was pointing out the Falcons' deficiencies at wideout. I think the Falcons are going to be running the football too. So more important maybe in this division. Second thing is, last time you guys were talking about Golston, or Marcus was, I got confused. I thought we were talking about Vernon Golston, and I was totally lost. Wasn't he a combine all-star, Vernon
Yes,
Golston?
he was.
Yes, he was.
Wasn't he one of those freak athletic guys that the Jets took, right, in the first round?
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, I got confused for a moment, so it's not my fault. Let's go to the
Michigan State.
Yeah. Let's go to the 24th overall pick in the draft. This isn't a team that Marcus really knows very well, but Chad, you and I can talk them.
Right.
The Dallas Cowboys.
So, I mean, obviously, Randy Gregory, that debacle is going to cause them to be looking at edge rushers probably in the first round if they like them. Do they still need, now that Collins is gone, or now are they going to be looking there? For some reason, Connor Williams got a contract from somebody. So are they going to try to get a guy at guard? Or are they going to go on defense with a corner? I don't know, Marcus. What do you think?
I don't think the organization has any idea what they're doing. So who knows what they think, Chad? My guess is that the Cowboys want to beef up the left side of their offensive line. Connor Williams just wasn't strong enough. Yeah. They and there's some guys that make sense. I think Zion Johnson from Boston College would make a ton of sense. The Cowboys want to spend money there. That's kind of where I lean.
Yeah. What about receiver? I mean, look, Jerry Jones likes shiny objects, right? I mean, this is not news. If there's a good receiver that's a good value because of injury, Jameson Williams, one of these guys, I mean, is he going to be able to look at us? They don't always pick the big name, but do you think they would look at a guy like that if he's available?
Yeah, I know they like Treylon Burks from Arkansas quite a bit, a 6'2", 225-pound receiver. But because they have CeeDee Lamb under contract and Michael Gallup, right, I don't think they're going to be forced to. I think they're going to, because they've been pretty good at drafting just the top player on their board. I've got a feeling, though, there's going to be better players on the board than Burks.
Yeah, I don't know that he's a first-round pick at this point. I mean, He looks a little too much like Laquan Treadwell at this point to me. But Yeah, I mean, Zion Johnson would be a great fit. He's been a first rounder to me since like September. So it's a no, it would be a great pick.
I'm actually right there with you guys. I think left guard is a great spot for this team to go for in the first round. Retool that offensive line. Another team that could use a guard in theory is the next one on your list. 21.
They may be the ones. Yeah, they may be the ones preventing Dallas from getting Zion Johnson because after losing Shaq Mason, Ted Karras, I mean, the Patriots really need that guy. Now, with Bill Belichick, you never know because they've needed offensive line guys, defensive line, and he's like, you know what? Let me just pick this receiver that nobody else really likes. This is the Treylon Burks potential spot here. And what I see there is the Patriots like to trade down, and they're at 21, which is a very prime trade down spot. So if any team in the late first wants to move up, the Patriots will take that phone call, and then they'll move down into the 28, 29, 30 spot, and they can take Treylon Burks there because he's like the perfect receiver for them that they like to pick. But if they stay at 21, Zion Johnson makes a lot of sense based on that. But they also lost J.C. Jackson. So like a guy like Andrew Booth might be really interesting to them at 21 as well.
I 100% agree. I think this is a team that's always looking for cornerbacks. Booth would make a lot of sense. I also like Trent McDuffie a lot there. I don't know if he falls all the way to 21. That seems like a little bit of a stretch, but a really smart corner that can play inside, outside. I like the call, though, going secondary.
You know what? It's interesting with McDuffie. People like to talk about Roger McCreary's lack of length. McDuffie's the same boat. Neither of them had 30-inch arms, and no first-round corner has been picked with under 30-inch arms in the last 20 years. So it's really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if teams care about that or if they're like, well, he's still a good corner. We're going to take him in the first round anyway. And I have a feeling that's going to definitely happen with McDuffie. Yep. I'm not so sure about McCreary, but we'll see how that plays out. But I just thought that was interesting that nobody's talking about McDuffie's length, focused on McCreary's.
Yeah, I mean, and when you have really long arms, and apparently this guy doesn't, it makes it a lot harder to get dress shirts, guys, because typically the long sleeves come with the bigger body, but not for the
right.
Yeah, I got an idea for you. Bill Belichick, obviously very, very. Jimmy Johnson isn't a mentor for Bill Belichick, but definitely respects his opinion. He spent time with Jimmy Johnson. You guys were talking about a prime spot to trade down at spot 21, which I don't disagree. You could trade down to spot 30 and then trade out again and double move it and end up picking up multiple picks. And again, what does that do for you? I know a lot of fans freak out. They're like, well, wait a minute. All the good guys are going off the board. Hey, teams have a big board. I know Jimmy Johnson's idea and some other organizations are let's get as many names off of our big board as we can get. It's not about getting one guy near the top of the draft. It's about can we get 5 guys that are in the top 100 here? And so I could easily see the Patriots doing that.
Yeah. And Belichick's been known actually to have a very small board, very few players on the board. Some teams will have a couple hundred players on their board.
Yeah.
Well, Belichick will have like 50. And that's why you've seen him take guys in the second and third round. You're like, well, I think most teams probably have them as later picks, but their board is so concise that they only like so many guys. But yeah, I mean, if they can do a double move, Patriots have done that in the past. As long as you don't, well, they've moved out of the top 50 before. Which is so surprising. So at 21, that's that spot that like most of their first round guys will probably be off the board at that point. Now, one year, they did move up twice in the first round. That was a Dante Hightower and Chandler Jones draft, right? So he has shown the interest, like if Thibodeau falls down or somebody else that they really like, they've shown that aggressiveness. So it's interesting with him, but I'm guessing it's more of a trade down situation.
And that's fine. But if you can if you don't see a lot of difference between, say, the 38th player on your board and the 21st player on your board,
right.
Then you don't need to pick 21st.
Right.
And if you get an opportunity to not only get the 38th player on your board, but the 46th player on your top 50, you get the point. You're getting more names off of it. And so I could easily see them doing that. But let's go to Philadelphia, because Philadelphia has the 19th, the 16th, and the 15th picks in the first round.
For now.
For now. What are you thinking? Marcus and I did a podcast on Tuesday, Chad. Marcus did not really like the Hassan Reddick move in free agency. Do you think this changes things for them?
Well, that's going to be the interesting thing, because they need another. I think they still need another guy to play opposite of Reddick and else who is on the weak side, right? The wide 9 Eagles was big talk a couple of years ago, because they have Josh Sweat, good player, but like maybe this does not take them out of the George Karlaftis situation in the middle of that first round, or somebody that's a little bigger in terms of an edge, and you can use Reddick purely as a pass rusher and things like that, or even line him up at Sam linebacker at times, and blitz him more. I think they blitzed Avery like 5 or 6 times a game or something like that. Yep. He's a pass rusher. So he could be in that role, or you could put his hand down on the ground like he was at Temple. And so, I get where they're, but they still probably need an edge. So maybe they're still in that thing, but look, they have other needs. They need a corner. They need linebacker help. This could be the first team since the Lions in the early 2000s that takes a wide receiver 3 years in a row. They could be. And that could involve them trading down a bit to get that guy, or if they love like a Drake London, Howie Roseman likes to trade either way, up or down. So I would be surprised if they stayed where they're at with these picks, but they have some other needs, and they have some opportunity to get some guys.
And we know that they don't take linebackers in the first round, so you can kind of cross that off.
Right.
Wouldn't be surprised at all. They use this, one of these picks to go up inside the top 7 or 8, go get a player that's falling. Like if a Kayvon Thibodeau is falling to 6 or 7, go get him. But yeah, I think defensive end, safety, wide receiver, all needs for them.
Yeah. And by the way, they may be able to get Kayvon at like 12 or 13. Watch for Cleveland, Minnesota, teams that like to trade. This would be a good opportunity for them to make that move and go get a guy like that if they're willing to overlook other stuff. So, that's one of the trades I was thinking about putting in my next mock draft.
Yep.
Given Fletcher Cox's age and some of the wearing down last year, I think it was Ryan Kerrigan that made a big old play for him against Tampa. Ryan Kerrigan in the playoffs. Could you see them maybe going edge rush or corner and just another defensive line prospect here?
Sure. I think the Eagles they have plenty of needs. I think they could use these picks in many different ways. But I think I wanted to bring them up in terms of the Reddick deal. And I don't think it really takes them off the edge. Like you said, I think they could still use some more help there, because we all know, we've all heard the cliche, you can never have too many pass rushers. This is true.
Yeah. I was telling Marcus in our Tuesday pod that I can't believe I'm saying pod now. I've become that guy, that the Eagles, had they signed JC Jackson to go with Darius Slay, nobody in the NFC East would be able to beat him, because I don't think the NFC East passing games could win against those guys. Not right now with Amari gone, which, Marcus was fine with Amari leaving, but and the Giants and Washington not being able to throw the ball. So anyway, let's before we get him depressed, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. They got Zadarius Smith late of the Packers.
Hold on. Can I interrupt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Zadarius Smith backed out of that deal today.
I did not see that.
Crazy. It's because it happened during the podcast. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good to know. So, which is what you were hoping was going to happen with Randy Gregory. So
you could tell you've got a high quality guest on when Marcus is checking the news while the podcast is going on. You can tell it's high quality. Quality. No, Chad, it's impossible. No. It's impossible not to have Twitter going this week. It is. It's impossible, because you never know when anything's going to happen. So
that's the benefit. Now we don't have to talk about Zadarius Smith
exactly.
So there you go.
Well,
yeah, but okay, but what are they going to do at right tackle? Is Morgan Moses it? Is he going to be the guy that's going to step in automatically and take that job, or are they going to do they want to find depth there? If Trevor Penning or somebody else that they like, if they think Charles Cross can play right tackle, if they think, that, are they going to look at that? And the other thing is they have some holes still at corner, and it's very possible that either Gardner or Stingley are going to be available there. So, the Ravens aren't a team that are going to trade up typically. They did for Lamar, after taking Hayden Hurst first, which didn't make any sense to me. But they typically won't. So they'll sit back and they'll wait for value typically. So I don't know if you guys think that they're good now at right tackle, or maybe they should go after corners instead. Or maybe edge now that Z's not coming. I don't know. Maybe that changes everything too.
This is a team that loves to draft defensive backs, and they believe that coverage matters more than pass rush, because if you've got good coverage, you could blitz a lot. And Marcus Peters is coming off a season-ending injury. Marlon Humphrey had an injury. They've got no depth at that position.
No, none.
I think Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley makes a ton of sense there. And actually, that's where I expect them to go if they don't pick Jordan Davis, the 340-pound freak defensive lineman.
Yeah, he'll be long gone. Long gone. I think he's 7 to 12 right now after that workout. I mean, after what they've seen him in the tape, Derek Brown goes 7. You got to think Davis is going to go between Vita Vea, who was 12, I think, and
probably
Derek Brown. But again, that's the kind of Ravens pick that they usually get, right? Because they wait and they don't move up, and typically somebody falls to them. Maybe that's one of those situations. Like, we'll just be patient. We're good.
Just out of curiosity here, Marcus, with this Zadarius Smith backing out of the contract, all the big names are pretty much off the market except for Clowney, right? Melvin Ingram.
Tell me about it. I know. Trust me, I know my Cowboys.
Yeah, so Melvin Ingram, we thought was going to be let go by Kansas City potentially, but if they don't pay Honey Badger, I'm just trying to think what possible names would be out there that Baltimore could replace him with if they wanted to get a lesser Zadarius Smith. There's really not a lot of guys out there.
Let me say this first. They drafted Odafe Owe in the first round last year. They have Tyus Bowser, who they use all over the place a little bit. They're not hurting for a pass rusher. However, there's guys out there. We know that they're going to be interested in the veteran market. So could they bring back Justin Houston? I think that's possible. Melvin Ingram is somebody that you mentioned. What about somebody like Jerry Hughes, who we mentioned at the top of this podcast? Yeah. They'll get somebody like that, I'm sure.
Is Jerry Hughes a free agent?
Yes.
Okay, now that I didn't know. I was looking at Melvin Ingram's contract. So Melvin Ingram, he went to Pittsburgh, then he ended up with Kansas City. I thought he actually gave Kansas City a spark last year. I'm just trying to think of veteran pass rushers that are either on their way out or are current free agents. I didn't think of Jerry Hughes. That would be I hate to see Jerry Hughes play with somebody besides Buffalo, though, man. He's been a solid bet for them. Why are you laughing at me? All right, I guess you're not. I thought you were.
Who?
Marcus, not you.
No, I just guys change teams all the time. It's not a big deal.
He doesn't. I
don't think Jerry Hughes is going to be somebody that Buffalo hangs their jersey in the Raptors or anything. I think they're going to be fine. I guess
I can never imagine Jerry Hughes in another uniform.
Oh my God,
Vernon Golston also available, so they could go sign him as well.
Let me tell you, Jerry Hughes played for the Cowboys. Marcus would have his jersey behind his head. So don't give me that. All right. Number 1 on your list, I told Marcus on Tuesday that I really want to see what this team's approach is this offseason, a year or two of Dan Campbell. So I found it intriguing when you had the Lions here. They picked 2nd overall. What are you thinking, Chad?
Well, because now they re-signed Tracy Walker at safety. And, you need to, obviously. Will Harris wasn't that good. So really, is Kyle Hamilton still in the conversation here? And I think he has to be, because I don't think that teams are going to pick Kayvon that high. First of all, I don't think he's going to go that high. And then Travon Walker, is he going to be the kind of end that they're going to want? And so that's going to be really interesting, whether Travon Walker is going to go that high or whether they go with Kyle Hamilton, who a lot of forget the 40. He's got great range, great player. Okay. He's going to be in that conversation. He's been in most conversations for the number 1 prospect in this draft, even after the injury. So I think despite re-signing Tracy Walker, they're still going to have a need for a safety. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that maybe Travon Walker could fit in there at edge. That would be a big pick for them. But so I think it's down to those guys now.
I would add another name in there. I like to pay attention to the betting markets and to see what Vegas is thinking Malik Willis, the quarterback from Liberty, is the favorite to be the number 2 pick. They filled a lot of their holes in free agency. Could they draft Willis at 2? They have Jared Goff under contract. Let him sit behind Goff. Use your other, first round pick and your other picks to build up the rest of the roster. The offensive line's good. Like, that's not a problem. They need some more, weapons on offense. They did bring in DJ Chark. I think we have to seriously consider Malik Willis an option at number 2. That's a reach, but
that would make me so happy, because I believe in these quarterbacks much more than everybody else does. And I think Malik Willis has a chance to be really special. So if they made that move, that would be fantastic. And it'll also make my trades up to 3 to go get the next quarterback even more possible. So I'm rooting for that one. I'm hoping Vegas is right about that one. And I think, look, Dan Campbell said it in his presser at the Combine. We will change our offense if we have the right guy. And that's how you have to look at it. You have to look at it that way. You can't fit a guy into whatever you think he's going to become. And I would love that if that happened. That would make me so happy.
Well, it's amazing what makes both of you guys happy. It really confuses me. I mean, Chad, I could have called Marcus during the Combine with a major life issue, and he would have been, watching people get their ankles measured. That's what we've come to.
Oh, I haven't thought about measuring ankles. Let me make a note on that. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh boy. By the way, on Melvin Ingram, I was a little confused with him because he had like 4 voidable years on his deal with the Steelers, and I wasn't sure if he was a true free agent, but he's out there. I think he may end up back with Kansas City, but it sounds like, well, as you mentioned, Chad, every team could draft a pass rusher, no matter what situation that they're in. I'm curious from both of you guys, because several of these teams on this list, I think, need pass rush help. Are there enough to go around this year? Do you consider it a deep group compared to other positions? I know you don't like quarterback this year. You guys don't like tight end this year. Is pass rusher one that you like? And I'm not just talking about first round. I mean, like maybe a late day 2 pick.
Well, tight end is very good once you get out of the first round and like inside the second, third, fourth round. It's very good class there. So it's just not at the top round.
Okay.
Yeah. And I like the quarterbacks better than most people. So, but edge rusher, yes, there's going to be 6, 7. I mean, there's going to be a number of them taken in the first round. And you're also going to have some guys in rounds 2 and 3. And we've seen this year after year where teams take these guys in round 2, 3, and 4, and they become really good pass rushers. They may not be great run defenders. They may not, but who cares? You put them out there in sub packages. You put them out there for a couple series at a time. They get the quarterback. That's what they're paid. So yes, teams will be able to find pass rushers in the first round or wait until they're going to get in rounds 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think you could see as many as 10 to 11 edge rushers drafted in the first 50 picks of this year's draft. And I think they're all worthy of it. I mean, it's a really, really good edge class. So yeah, if you're in the top of the second round and you just need that third defensive end to give you some speed, like I like Boy Mafi from Minnesota, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the Packers and some other teams at the end of the first round be looking at him. Drake Jackson. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that we don't really talk about a lot.
Arnold Akedi from
exactly
from Penn State.
Yep. And we see this like Harold Landry goes in the second round. We see this every year. Samson Ubicom. Every year we see guys come out, and that's how the Rams like make their money, because they trade away their first 2 picks and they pick decent guys in the 3rd and 4th round, and they keep going. So there's some good depth at those positions.
Just looking at your list here, I mean, I really think that Detroit, Philadelphia, Dallas could certainly use pass rush help, and in Baltimore and Philadelphia as well, or Baltimore and New England as well. I was just wondering, like, can you afford to wait until the top of the 3rd round to get a guy that you think can contribute this year? But it sounds like you can.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 2 guys that are very similar on your board, and they. When you're talking about first round, they have all their players listed in the order in which they would take them. So it's a little different. But later in the draft, you might have a couple of guys that are in the same, and you have to make a call on that. But yes, you definitely don't have to reach for one, in my opinion. If you're looking for a pure pass rush threat, you can just let the draft play out and take a guy at another position early if you have the need and find a pure pass rusher. And that's why, like, people will be surprised if, for example, the Packers, they re-sign Preston Smith and they have Rashawn Gary. That doesn't mean they're not going to take a guy in the first round because you need that third, fourth options out there because they found out what happened when you play some guys that aren't as good. So you need 3 guys at least.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Marcus, that when you mentioned that many guys could go in the top 50, somebody's inevitably going to fall into the 60s, 70s, or 80s even. That's why I'm saying maybe one of these teams can go get, go get a guard, go get a corner and say, all right, yeah, we're in the 3rd round, but look, that guy is still on the board. We're there, if he gets us 3 or 4 sacks off the bench and learns our system this year, that's a good pick. You know?
I mean, I'll even give you a name. Like, I think someone like Cameron Thomas from San Diego State could kind of fall between picks 50 and 80. And that's a guy that could probably start for you or at least be your 3rd defensive end in year 1. So I agree with you, Elliot.
Yeah, Brian Robinson from Minnesota, just as an example of a guy that is very, very similar. Yep. You've got Nick Benito. You've got Amari Barno from Virginia Tech.
D'Angelo Malone.
Yes. Yep. I mean, you've got a bunch of guys that are going in the 3rd round. And these are, hey, we're trying to make your point for you, Elliot.
I know, but it's getting symbiotic with you too. It's
Jesse Lugetta from Penn State. It's another one.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of any pass rusher from San Diego State, and I was having a hard time in history. So I was just thinking when you said that, Marcus, I can't think of any San Diego State pass rushers, but don't worry.
It's not a hotbed.
The great Gavin Escobar with the San Diego State, but he wasn't a pass rusher.
Oh man. Oh boy. Yeah, it's always there. Well, Chad, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this stuff because I think it's good for people to get context. It's one thing to talk about these prospects and do a mock draft, but if you're not marrying what a team does in free agency and what the fits are with that organization, then, you really don't have much accuracy. So again, man, this is really good. When is your first mock draft coming out for NFL.com?
So I had one come out a couple weeks before the combine, a three rounder, but the next one is going to come out next week. And hopefully all this quarterback nonsense will be figured out before then. But it should be late next week sometime. So either it'll all be figured out by then, or the minute that they're getting ready to publish it, everything will happen. One of the two is going to so happened twice last year. So,
but is it the Big Mama? Is it the 7-round mock
draft?
No,
I go 4 on this one.
Okay.
And then on the next couple, I only have one of the 7-rounders in me, honestly.
Yeah, but I love that. I think that is the ultimate, like, just trying to figure it out where all the pieces go. Man, that's like a mountain of work. With that, as always, even though he tries to screw me up, Marcus, I'm going to give you the last word on our podcast for today.
Yeah, I think we're basically through the first, second, third wave of free agency. But what we're waiting for now is just Deshaun Watson news. It feels like 4 or 5 other teams are waiting for Watson. And we know it's probably only going to come down to the Saints and the Falcons, but we're waiting to see what the Colts do, because maybe the Colts will go after Matt Ryan. If Watson goes to Atlanta, we'll see what happens with Baker Mayfield, who kind of wrote a goodbye letter to Cleveland a couple of days ago. Once the Watson news hits, and I'm assuming it's going to happen soon, we're going to see a ton of movement in the NFL.
I'm just looking for an adult on this podcast.
Yeah, me too.
By the way, Kabir Baja-Biamila.
It's a good.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
State Russian, and Akbar, of course, as well.
Oh, yeah. I just talked to Akbar the other day. Now I'm kind of ashamed of myself.
I forgot too. Packer fans should not forget about Kabir. So
no, he was great. I should call Akbar and tell him my gaffe there. Hey, Chad, great stuff. Follow him at Chad_Ryder. It's REUTER, and at Marcus_Mosher, where he's the host of Locked On Cowboys, and you can dive into all the right tackle talk all day.
Here's Steel, baby.
We thank Courtney and all the folks, Eric and Herbert at Brinks. I think Garrett Fritz is on here somewhere. So, hey to you too, bud. Take care, everybody.